Hi and welcome to the Monday Live, and we are squeezing today. We're going to start with the very basics of it. In fact, I'm going to basically start with the start of the big seminar, so some of you may have seen that. We'll talk our way through that, and then we'll use an example hand actually today, which came up in the Teams. It's lovely when they come up. Squeezes. How often are they going to come up? Probably once every time you play. However, they won't necessarily be seen. They won't necessarily matter. So but they do come up, as I say, and you can see them. But they're not easy. I'm not going to pretend this is not the easiest topic. One of the reasons it's only just appeared now is that I very rarely talk on the topic. In fact, I think the last time I did a weekend on the subject of squeezing was probably pre-COVID. One of the reasons is because to get a team that is able to talk about squeezing isn't easy either, because it's not easy for our team members, let alone for myself and for you. But we're going to talk about squeezes and have some fun with it. It's the magic of cards for me. It allows you to see that. We'll have our usual 5-level decision, and we'll have a bidding quiz at the end. So we'll have our usual suspects, as it were. We are very much going smoothly along, as it were, for the next couple of weeks, although we hit a bank holiday, I think, at the end of next week, and then at the beginning of the week after that. So we won't be broadcasting there, but that's ahead of us. That is, of course, the Easter weekend. In terms of events, etc., at the moment, of course, we've got our early bird offer for 2026. So that's for almost all of the events in 2026. I think it excludes the festive and the reboot and those kind of things. But, you're able to get an early bird, and those of you who are members get the double bonus of having your member bonus and the early bird bonus. So do book up some of those if you fancy. I think it says until the early bird offer is open until the 28th of April 2025, and it's funny you should say that, Suzanne, because it did actually say 2026 when I first saw it, and I sort of advised them that no, we want that. You don't want to have an early bird offer going on for a year and a half, or a year. What else have we got? Well, you've got the usual cruises and all sorts. So do go to B&B Holidays, and you can investigate there. Plenty to look into. So I usually start with the 5-level decision. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to press that button there. There we go. Some of you will have seen this on Friday. You are vulnerable against non-vulnerable opponents. It goes 2 spades and it's your choice of bid. And I'm hoping you agree that I'm going to bid 2 no trumps here. And you could double. The problem you've got is that it's what we call a slow stopper in spades. If you've got the ace of spades blank, that's quite good for playing in a suit contract. But Queen Jack 10 is not going to be that handy if you were playing in a heart contract, if partner's got a doubleton or something like that. So I like the descriptive nature of 2 no trumps. It says, partner, I have between 16 and 19 points. I've got a spade stopper and a balanced hand, and so 2 no trumps is what I would bid here. Double is not the end of the world, don't get me wrong. Okay, well, partner's bid 4 hearts anyway, and we're happy with that. So let's end what you think is end the auction there, but it then comes back round to you. And that is where we leave the cliffhanger, as it were, the 5-level decision. So you overcalled 2 no trumps to show your strong hand. It goes 3 spades, 4 hearts from your partner. Pass, 4 spades, pass, and it's your bid. And we will revisit this. We will revisit our bid, which I think we should make. And we'll also revisit South's bid, which will be interesting. So that is our 5-level hangover, as it were. What we're going to do now is have a look at our at the seminar itself. So let me just put that up there. They all started again because we had to restart. I'm just reminding myself where I want to be, which I think is there. Boom. Boom. Okay. All right. So, squeezes. Squeezes are wonderful things, okay, for the player who plays them, less so for the player who gets squeezed. It is a play which forces a defender to throw a valuable card away. So you are essentially looking at a contract, for example, that you're one trick short, or you're aiming for an overtrick or something like that, and it's by magic, one player has to throw them away. Now, the reason I said earlier that they are actually quite common, or relatively common, come up every time you play on average, but very often defense is by far the hardest aspect of the game, and so often someone will make the wrong discard before they even get squeezed. Now this is going to be included in our Friday topics. Excuse me. Defense, which is what we're studying at the moment on the Fridays, and we'll be looking at the discards and how you keep the right cards, because it is a fundamental part of your plan. So when we plan eventually, and believe you me, there's going to be a lot of letters by the time we get to the end of the plan, one of those plans is to keep the right cards, but it's so difficult, and so often people just throw. Now, last week when I did the introduction, I simply said, look, if you actually play your last two trumps off, very often your opponents will make an accidental wrong discard, and that's it. You make a contract you shouldn't have made. So, and that is what's called a sort of pseudo squeeze, where your opponents think you've got certain cards and keep, they've got the king, jack, 10 of hearts and think they need to keep them. Well, it turns out their partner's got the queen, 9, 8, as it were. But they don't know that. And so very often we regard a king, jack, 10 holding as more important than 4 to the 9 or 4 to the 10. And so it's easy to discard from those 4-card suits, which of course we know are valuable, I hope. And if you don't know they're valuable, you should know they're valuable. Okay. So let's look, as I say, this is taken from the start of the big seminar. And here I've got a situation where North-South have 3 aces. Okay, they're clearly got 3 tricks. There's no trumps. That's all they're going to make, because the only 2 places they can win an extra trick is in the second round of hearts and the second round of spades. And in a perfect world, the defenders simply look after one each. So here West has got the king, queen of hearts, and East has got the king, 6 of spades. They have no problems looking after those cards, and North-South will simply make 3 aces. The problem for the defenders is if one of them has to look after the whole load. Because look, North and South have shared the load as well. Okay, so the declarer playing North-South is sharing, he's got the jack of hearts, a threat as it were, as we're going to see, the term menace, or the squeezes have wonderful phraseology as it were connected to them. So here the menaces are the jack of hearts and the 10 of spades. Okay, West stops the hearts, East stops the spades. Let's give them, if we take the 3 aces, you can see they've both got them stopped there. No problem. Nice and simple. That's normal bridge. Okay, the high cards win, as it were. Let's put them both in the same hand, though. Okay, can you see this is where the trouble comes, of course, for the defender. The defender cannot look after both. So we're going to play the ace of diamonds first here, and poor East is going to be squeezed. Unfortunately, generally you use a term, one of the terms you'll often use when describing the hands in a squeeze situation is irrelevant. So West's card here are irrelevant because West cannot beat any card. So West cannot beat the jack of hearts in the south hand, West cannot beat the 10 of spades. So actually his cards are irrelevant. It's all about East. So when that ace of diamonds is played, okay, what on earth, what can East do? And East will take a long time over it and eventually make a decision, and whatever decision he makes, essentially, declare can take advantage of. Of course, West will probably say, oh, partner, you gave in away another trick. But here, East is genuinely squeezed. Okay, so when the ace of diamonds is played, as I say, it's a long pause, basically. Ideally, what you do is you try to discard smoothly. Here, you'd maybe discard the 6 of spades smoothly. Bear in mind that declarer may have forgotten about the queen and jack. In hearts, it's less likely. If you discard the queen, maybe declarer, you know, so in a psychological way, you would try to discard the thing that you think declarer is less likely to be able to take advantage of. If you're playing against an expert declarer, I'm afraid that's not going to work. But essentially, you know, a computer will do it randomly because they just assume the computer knows every card, as it were. But against a human being, you know, it's all well and good declarer squeezing you, but does declarer know, for example, a 7 of spades is a winner? So on another hand, if it's a small card that becomes a winner, it's not always easy unless you've been counting all the cards to know which one's a winner. Here, the chances are East might choose a spade because it's the only low card he's got. But as long as declarer reads the hand correctly, declarer can take the ace of hearts, the ace of spades, and the 10 of spades, because the ace drops the king. East has been squeezed out of a winner. So how do they work? Essentially, the ideal is that you need threats. You need what are called threats or menaces. Okay, those are basically cards that have the potential of making a winner. Okay. Very often, if you've got a 4-3 fit in a suit, you'd love the suit to break 3-3. But if it doesn't break, only one opponent can look after the suit. Does that make sense? So if I've got ace, king, queen, and the 2 of clubs opposite 3 in dummy, I'm hoping that the 2 will be a winner. But if it's not, it will be a threat against one player. Does that make sense? Okay. Tightness. Well, what does that mean? Well, that's relatively simple. If you fill a bottle with water, take the top off and squeeze it, the water will come out. If you fill the bottle to only half full and then squeeze it, the water will shouldn't probably get even to the top. You won't get anything out. So you're not gaining by squeezing. I mean, excuse me. I guess if you squeeze really, really hard with both hands, you might manage it. Okay, the key is tightness. If the opponents have spare cards, they can just discard those. If they have no spare cards, they have to throw a nice card, and that's the idea of a squeeze. Remember though, what we said last week was, even if a squeeze doesn't work, if you give your opponents the chance to discard, they often will make a wrong discard. So it may not be a genuine squeeze, but by playing a long suit out, you've created a scenario where they can do the wrong thing. And as I say, a lot of players who hold the king, jack, 10 of hearts and 4 to the 10 in clubs will throw a club. Okay. So tightness is the idea of no spare cards. Position, well, quite often it's important who discards first. If you're doing a normal, simple squeeze, as it were, well, if you play a winner as South and West has to play first, then dummy can discard the other suit. And that works nicely. However, if it's the other way around and dummy has to discard before East, then you may find you're actually squeezing yourself rather than East, and East can follow the discard that dummy makes. Now, that'll be in some squeezes, other squeezes where the one I've just shown you, where I had a winner in the South and the North hand, I shared the load between my 2 hands, then the positional, that's what's called an automatic squeeze, where it doesn't matter who you can squeeze. Okay, not easy. All of these terms are difficult, as it were. And of course, it's all well and squeezing someone, but if you've got no entry to get to the winner, that's going to be no good either. So you can work all of this out, but in a sense, I mean, let's look at this classic, the idea of menaces, and then we'll look at the one example that we used at the very start of the big seminar. Then, after that, I'll have a look at one that came up just this week. Okay, so what do I mean by menaces? Well, this is what I was saying. So the 4 of spades there, hopefully it wins. If the spades break 3-3, that's wonderful. And I make 4 tricks. But if they break 4-2, one of the opponents needs to keep those 4 spades. If he discards a spade, my 4 will be a winner. Now, he may discard it accidentally at any point in the hand, or I might be able to force him to do it, particularly if he has the king of hearts as well, because my queen of hearts is a threat. If the king of hearts gets discarded or bared and I drop it with the ace, my queen would become a winner. So both the 4 of spades and the queen of hearts are called menaces. So this was the simple hand that I had. And it's a nice example to show how a squeeze will work. So an expert will look at this hand and they'll estimate their chances of making it, and they will say, well, all I need is a 3-3 break in spades or a 3-3 break in hearts. And this is the key. There is another or a one opponent holding length in both majors. Okay, so the only other thing you need is one opponent holding length in both majors. And the idea is because I've got 4 spades in the west hand and 4 hearts in the east hand, if one opponent has to look after the both of them, they are going to struggle. As we're going to see, if you just play your ace king queen of spades off first and then the ace king queen of hearts, that's not going to work because you're not going to have entries in both hands. But just imagine taking the ace king queen of diamonds and the ace king queen of clubs first. That leaves only 7 cards. And 2 times 4 equals 8. So what do I mean by that? Well, if one opponent has 4 spades and 4 hearts, he will not be able to keep them both. So the crucial part of the plan here is actually to take your diamonds and take your clubs first, and then put the opponent under pressure. So there's 12 top tricks. I hope you all worked that out. Ace, king, queen, ace, king, queen, ace, king, queen, ace, king, queen. Potential winners, of course, are your heart and your spade, your 4th card in each suit. You either need a 3-3 break in either suit or one defender to hold them both. Okay, so it's not too bad odds actually, although we know that a 3-3 break is not with the odds. A chance of either suit breaking and the chance of one person holding both length in both suits is reasonable. Okay, so here is a possible layout. As I say, I think we can all work out that we'll make this contract if one suit breaks 3-3. But the crucial element here is when we play the ace king queen of diamonds and the ace king queen of clubs, we will get to a place where there are only 7 cards left. Okay. And what's interesting is, so this isn't a particularly natural way of playing the hand. Most players playing the hand, if they're not familiar with squeezing, will be desperate to know if the hearts break or the spades break. So they'll play the ace king queen of hearts. Oh no, it hasn't broken. They'll play the ace king queen of spades. Oh no, it hasn't broken. There's no comeback from that, as we're going to see. Okay, all right, so let's do it the right way. Okay, after the ace king queen of diamonds and the king and queen of clubs, let's say we get to this situation here. Okay, we are going to play the ace of clubs off before testing spades or hearts. And of course the reason for that is because we only want there to be 7 tricks left. Okay, because if there's 7 tricks left, we know nobody can hold both majors. It's a tight situation because we have 12 winners and we're aiming for 13. Okay, so when we play that ace of clubs, poor South. South has no hope at all. Clearly what he would do is he would throw a spade because he can see 4 hearts in dummy, and that's crucial. I mean, you know, all South can do is hope that West doesn't have 4 spades. Does that make sense? I mean, West could, I suppose, have 4 hearts and might, or another club or something like that. if you can see the 4-card suit in dummy, that's the one you keep. Okay, but South is squeezed, so whatever he does, okay, he loses. I hope you can see that whatever he does, we make the 13th trick. Okay, as long as we don't discard the same suit, which of course we're not going to. We're just going to follow clubs here, and we will then play them out. You do need to count, so you do need to notice the discard. So when you see that 8 of spades discarded, I would start then by playing spades first before I forget about it. So I've seen 1 spade go, I'd then play the ace, king, queen, and see the jack, 10, 9 go, and obviously the 7 and 5. Okay, so you do have to count that suit accurately. Now, as I say, it's not that as natural as it looks. Okay, it's not as natural as it looks, because I think a lot of players would play that. I mean, you're desperate. I mean, let's be honest. The key here is 6 no trumps plus 1 is a great score. So I don't expect necessarily everybody to be in 7 no trumps, but you're going to be nervous if you win 7 no trumps. You're thinking, oh, hopefully I'll make. So a lot of players will be desperate to know if they're going to make it, because they know that if the spades break or the hearts break, they'll make it. The problem is if you play those off, this is what you get to at the end. And when you play the ace of clubs, you are squeezing South in the sense that South has 2 winners. The problem is South also knows that you're stuck in your hand. So he can see that although his jack of spades is a winner, he can throw it away because he knows you've got to lead the 5 of hearts on the last trick. So you've still squeezed South, but without entries to both hands, you can't choose which card. So if you could play the ace of clubs and then say, is it okay if I lead from my hand now? Or you take a long time and hope they forget. Okay, but essentially ace of clubs is played, you discard the jack of spades as South because you know that East has to lead a heart. Okay, so the hand is played in a way the same as the last one. The last way I've played it, but now we have to lead a heart. Okay, so you need to have entries in both hands so that whatever South discards, we can take advantage of it. Okay, so here jack of spades is thrown, and of course the 5 of hearts unfortunately loses the last trick. Okay, so that's that hand. As I say, that was from the very first part of the seminar. Let's look at the hand that came up then for us. Let's look at the hand that came up. So this came up on Wednesday, and it was quite interesting. So let's got to remind myself of the bidding. So let's do it. Okay, I was playing South. West opened 1 heart, and that came all the way around to us. And so that was our first decision to make on the hand. We've got 19 points. And you can play a 2 no trump bid in this situation as a natural bid, but I would actually usually play it as stronger than this. I would play 2 no trumps as genuinely a 2 no trump opener. So for me, it's just a double to start with. West bid 2 clubs, and North doesn't have to bid here. So I felt that 2 spades here should be showing you some strength. So as far as I'm concerned, 5 or 6 points maybe, or something like that. And at that point I'm thinking, look, I've got a flat hand. I can't be completely sure that I've got the clubs stopped, but most of the time West is most likely for this auction to have almost all of the points we're missing. Not only that, you'd expect him probably to have the Queen, Jack, Hearts, Ace, King of Clubs, that kind of thing. So I am going to bid 3 no trumps. Okay, and that is exactly what we did. And that was the end of the auction. So let's remind ourselves what happened now. So West led the Ace of Clubs, and that's what came down. So we got 7 top tricks, and West actually ended up leading the Ace and King of Clubs, which gave us 8. So we needed 1 more. And so we had to make a plan. So let's just see how it went, because it was relatively what you might call automatic. Okay, so an Ace and King, and another club. Okay, I'm just going to change that. So that's the situation we're in. And we felt that we could afford a spade, so we discarded a spade. So we've now got 8 tricks. And looking at the carding and sort of guessing from the bidding, we were thinking that West might be 5-5. He's likely to have most of the points, isn't he? We had 19 opposite 6, 25 points. There's only 15 points left. So it's not going to surprise us that West has Queen Jack to 5 hearts, Ace King to 5 clubs, and possibly the King of Spades. And what we thought to ourselves is this: well, how on earth is West going to keep all of those cards? So first of all, you're trying to gauge how the spades might break. Okay, so imagine West has got 5 hearts and 5 clubs. There's only 3 other cards. So what we decided to do was just to play 2 diamonds off to see how the diamonds broke. Okay, and by playing the 10 of diamonds there, we're keeping a possible entry. So, but West has discarded a heart now. Okay, and we're thinking to ourselves, okay, that's interesting. Annoyingly, if we play 2 diamonds off now, East will have a winner. So we're not so keen on necessarily playing the diamonds off, but we think to ourselves, well, if West has only got 1 diamond, how is he going to keep the white cards here? Because if he's got 5 hearts and 5 clubs, and the fact that he played on clubs, Ace King and another club, suggests maybe that. Well, what's he going to do? Because he wants to keep all the club winners, don't forget, because he needs those club winners to get us down. Okay, he needs the club winners to get us down. So we think he's made 2 tricks, he's got 2 more club winners, and if we give him a spade trick, for example, with his king perhaps, then he will take us down. But, I mean, let's open up the hands. Maybe that's easier. So this is the situation we were in. And we felt that, or I felt when I was playing it, that it's worth playing both diamonds off. Yes, I'm establishing a trick for East, but I think West is going to struggle. So we played the King of Diamonds. And at this point in the hand, when the Jack of Diamonds is played, what can West do? So I'll just stop West following. Okay, so we lead the Jack of Diamonds and it's West's turn to play. And we were placing West with 5 hearts. So, even if West didn't have the Queen Jack, we knew that the Ace King of Hearts would take away all of East's hearts. So if West throws a heart, we make the Ace in King of Hearts and the 10 of Hearts. And that is our 9th trick. So West can't throw a heart. But equally, if West throws a spade, that's pretty horrible as well. In fact, it'll end up giving us quite possibly extra oodles of extra tricks, as in we'll take 4 spade tricks if West throws a spade. So that's no good. So in the end, West, not unreasonably, threw a club. The problem is, of course, that was the only way to get us down. So the only way that West could have got us down was by taking 2 clubs and a winner. So at this point, we were able to play a spade. Now, if I had already planned that I was placing West with the King of Spades. So in fact, if it had gone a small spade here, Ace, I was going to duck the next spade, assuming it was the King. As it happens, the Jack went in. And so we were able then to knock out the last spade, okay, knowing that the 10 and 8 were going to be winners. Okay. And what can De Clower do? He just plays the Jack of Clubs, of course, that's his winner, but the West, of course, are ours, and we had made the contract. So De Clower, in very much an relatively automatic way there, West was squeezed. Okay, so West had a lovely hand, not unreasonably worked out that East was never going to get the lead, and if given time, we could have established our spade suit. Okay, so West did the right thing, I think, playing the Ace King and another club. because otherwise we would have probably been forced to play ace of spades and another spade, and we would have made 4 spade tricks and dummy and made lots of extra tricks. So I think ace king of clubs and another club was the best that West could do, but from that point on we were in the controlling seat by playing 4 rounds of diamonds. As I say, I think it's a relatively natural thing to do on this particular occasion, although being aware that you are setting up a winner for East, the fact is East was unlikely to be able to get on lead. Whenever you're squeezed, ideally you need to discard smoothly and fast, and so whenever I see an opponent starting to cash a long suit, I count the number of times I'm going to need to discard, and I think about them at the very first discard. And what do I mean by that? Well, let's say you knew, you can't know here, but let's say you knew South had 4 diamonds. I would say to myself, well, I have to discard 4 times. So who knows, I might have even, you know, I'd throw a heart, and a club, exactly what happened, but I do them very smoothly, very quickly, and hopefully declarer won't think I'm being squeezed and might not think I've got the king of spades. Okay, for that reason, and might play in a different way. Here it makes no difference, okay, because of course the king and jack were together. So it's lovely when things come up, so hopefully we'll see some more squeezes. Please do send them in if you come across them. Sometimes you will discover them after the play of the hand. With hindsight is a very common way of playing squeezes. And how do you know there could be a squeeze on a hand? Well, we will look at the number of the tricks the double dummy sheets tell us we can make. So it'll say 3 no trumps, north south can make 9, and people will look, well, yeah, we all only made 8, how on earth can we make 9? And then we discover, maybe we can squeeze someone. Okay, so it is often the realm of experts, so understanding the potential that one player might be covering everything. But bidding can help a lot. Here on the hand we've just shown, we had West bidding twice. If you have 26 points between you and your opponent opens, or 28 points between you and your opponent opens, well then you can place all the points in your opponent's hand, which means he's going to have to look after everything. So taking advantage of your opponent's bidding can make a lot of difference. So you think to yourself, well, I tell you what, if West has to look after the ace of spades, the king of clubs and the queen of diamonds, I think he's going to struggle. And you can have some fun doing it. Okay, as the person being squeezed, so be it, but let the partner of the person being squeezed not get upset with them, because if they're genuinely squeezed, there's nothing they can do. Okay, all right, let's have a look at the next one. I've just got to do that and do that, I think. Is that right? I think it is. Okay, so we're going back to that 5-level decision. So let's have the auction as we did. We overcalled 2 no trumps, don't forget. We were happy finishing in 4 hearts until South bid 4 spades. Now remember the auction, the vulnerability. They are non-vulnerable, we are vulnerable. Now you haven't shown any heart support here, undoubtedly, but very often these kind of hands depend on the kind of spade stopper you've got, as it were. Here, with Queen Jack 10, that is going to be relatively worthless in 4 hearts, or 5 hearts for that matter. So you are going to need, I mean, let's assume you've got a spade loser. You've got to make sure you're making 5 hearts. With flat hands and slow spade tricks, that is not suggestion. Now you've got only 2 choices, I should say. You're not allowed to pass this. This is what we call a forcing pass situation. So West has suggested that he has distribution, but that's no surprise. We're sort of expecting he's got distribution, but he hasn't. If he'd had a void in spades and maybe 6 hearts, I'd expect him to possibly bid 5 hearts himself. So he's giving us the option, and with a flat hand and a slow spade trick, I would be doubling here. Okay, if you had the ace of spades here, I think it's much closer, because I would not be expecting to lose a spade trick in hearts, and now I think it's reasonable perhaps to go on to 5 hearts and make sure of our 600 points. Does that make sense? So I am going to double this. Okay, and that I'm sure will end the auction, he says. Okay, so let's just look at the hands. And what I said to you earlier was I want to question South's bidding as well, because at this vulnerability, your partner's opened a weak 2. With the South hand, I would be thinking my opponents have probably got a heart fit here. They may well find it, they might not, but I would love them not to find it. Now, 3 spades is a reasonable attempt, but I think if you're always going to bid 4 spades, you'll very often be much better off jumping to 4 here. Now, at this vulnerability only, if it was equal or you were vulnerable, I wouldn't be bidding it because I'm worried East might have good spades. But the point I would feel here is if you jump straight to 4 spades, can you see the pressure you put on West? I think that's really tough, and I think a lot of Wests will bid 5 hearts. West is looking at a hand that he doesn't feel he's got any defence at all, and he's quite right, he hasn't got any defence against spades. So essentially what he'd be thinking is 5 hearts, and suddenly you've gone too high. Okay, you're likely to lose a club, a diamond and a spade in hearts. You know, you'd feel possibly you'd have a spade lead and a club switch, for example, is what you'd expect, or the ace of spades and a club switch, and that's the end of that. Okay, you know, and that's a disaster. 5 hearts -1. But I think if South does it in one go, I think a lot of Wests will bid 5 hearts, and that's too late. It's all over. And you know, so make the opponents take the last guess here. Instead, over 4 spades, even though East has got wonderful heart support, it's the flatness of the hand. How will 4 spades do? Well, clearly you're going to make 1 trump trick. You're going to make I think probably you'll make 2 club tricks actually in the end, and a heart. So 1, 2 and 2 diamonds possibly. So that's 2, 4, 5, 6, which is 3 off, which is a lot off, but it's still a profit for North-South. That's the vulnerability is crazy, isn't it? Here it would be 500 points. 4 spades doubled -3, 500, but we could have made 620 and 4 hearts. So they've done well, but I don't think they've done as well as they could. I'll tell you what, I'm just going to try. I haven't seen Q Plus having a go here, so let's just have a go. I'm going to take control of the West hand and see what happens. So let's say it goes 2 no trumps, and we'll just see. Sorry, that's not what I wanted. I want to take control of the South hand. Apologies. Okay, so let's do it. And I just want to see how Q Plus fares, because I think this is tough. 2 no trumps, and I'm going to bid 4 spades. Let's see what Q Plus fancies. No, he's passed, so well done, well done. Q Plus has got it right, because of course it will now go double. I'll just check though, because it might still bid 5 hearts here. No. Okay, so Q Plus has done well there. Good judgment, because I think that's tough. I mean, in fact, I should really have that as another 5-level decision. I think that's really tough not to bid 5 hearts, because it all depends, as I say, on what East's spade holding is. If East has the ace of spades there, that's instead of the Queen Jack 10 of spades, then you would definitely want to be in 5 hearts, don't you? Well, there you go. Anyway, that's enough. I'm wandering on. So let me just put a quiz up for you. There you go. That's a quick auction for you. Another 5-level decision, but this time opposite your partner. East, west of vulnerable, that's your side. 4 spades from your partner. East, west of vulnerable, north, south, non-vulnerable. So your partner's open 4 spades, vulnerable against not. And it's gone pass, and it's your bid. 4 spades pass, and it's your bid. So good luck with that. The answer, of course, on the website. Whether you're a member or not, you can have a look at that. So I hope you enjoyed that. The topic we are on is not particularly easy, but it is fun. I do recommend getting involved. Some of you will hopefully get to play squeezes. Some of you will certainly be squeezed, but hopefully you can enjoy the idea of seeing what can happen with a deck of cards, the magic of cards, as I like to put it. So have a lovely week. I don't think it's going to be particularly warm, but it looks pretty dry and sunny, and I think we all enjoy that. And I'm going to be playing around with my son for much of it, trying to get a balance between some work and some play. I've got my nephew coming over today as well, so we'll enjoy that. So thanks for your company, and see you again soon.